Hi, and welcome to your Urban Connection. Remember, this is the channel that is often imitated but never duplicated. This show is sponsored by Squeegee Squad, your high-rise professional window cleaners. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is my 96th show since beginning this podcast about a little less than 2 years ago. But I want to tell you that today, of all the other 95 shows that I've done, today's show will have more importance to me and I hope to you than any of the other shows that I've done. Today, we're going to talk about something that nobody else is talking about, wants to be talking about, but everybody should be talking about it. And the subject today is school bullying being ignored by school districts throughout the country. Now, I want to give you some statistics, and I want to share with you some of what's been going on. Because most of you have been led to believe that school bullying only takes place in some of our largest states, largest cities. And you have been led to believe that it's mostly among high school students. And if you believe either one of those, you are grossly mistaken. And I'm going to tell you why. In the first place, school bullying is something that's been going on for a very long time. But at the same time, school bullying is something that has been ignored by school teachers, school administrators, and a lot of parents for a very long time. And it is my opinion that this issue is not taken seriously across the country, even though a study by the RAND Corporation that was taken in 2022, which was just last year, the study found that bullying was among teachers' top school safety concern. Now, how can that be if teachers across the country are looking the other way while this bullying, a lot of it is taking place in the classroom with the teacher's presence and is now reaching the lower levels of the K through 12. You see, today, a lot of the bullying that takes place in our public schools involves school children as young as 10 years old. Now, here's why we should be concerned, ladies and gentlemen. Because of the fact that these school districts don't talk about this and don't want to talk about this, the fact is they don't want you to know about this because it would make them look bad. Because these incidents are on the increase. And the effects of bullying, ladies and gentlemen, oftentimes turns deadly. But nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody seems to want to do anything about it. So we're going to talk about it today and going forward. And today we're going to talk about it on a national level. And I'm going to give you some updates on what's been going on nationally, But I want you to understand this. Even though this program is talking about bullying on a national level, bullying is taking place right here in USD 259. And I have the proof. But nobody's talking about it. The teachers are not talking about it. The administrators are not talking about it. The parents are not talking about it. And one of the main reasons the parents are not talking about it is because the parents never receive the information when their children are bullying other students, nor do they reveal the information when the victim is bullied. They keep it within the confines of the school district. So we're led to believe that everything is hunky-dory, and it's not. Now, I want to just give you a few statistics, and maybe this is the reason why it's not talked about. I'm not sure. But according to a study that was done by Boston University, anti-racist research, a report stated and broke down who is affected by bullying and at what rates. So let's start with the Asian community. And we know that the Asian population in this country is probably among the lowest. But the Asian rate of students that are victims of bullying is about 2.5%. That's nationwide. And then next, no, I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. That is American Indians, is about 2.5. And then comes the Asian population, which is about 6.5. And then comes the white population, which is about 20.5. The Hispanic population is about 27.5. And at the top of the list, the most victimized race in the United States public school system, African Americans, at 37%. You heard me right, 37% of all the African Americans in public school systems in the United States or have been victims of bullying. Now one has to ask the question, is that the reason why it's not talked about? I don't have the answer, but I'm quite suspicious. But, I want to tell you this. Now, and the reason why this is so serious and why it's so near and dear to my heart, ladies and gentlemen, is because across the country in the last few years, and when I say few, I'm talking about maybe 3 to 5 years, we've seen a large increase in the number of suicides among our young adolescent population. Suicide among the young population, and I'm talking about 10 to 14 years old. Suicide is the third leading cause of death by this group. Third leading cause of death by this group of adolescents, 12, 14. Now, the leading cause of these suicides is bullying. Most of these young kids are being bullied, or have been bullied, and to the extent that it has caused them to take their own life because their self-worth has been destroyed. Their self-esteem has been destroyed. All because of school administrations and administrators and teachers refuse to take this issue seriously, refuse to get actively involved. And I want to tell you, in several of these incidents, as a matter of fact, probably most of them, before these young people took their lives, they had informed, talked about, and almost, in some cases, they did, begged school personnel to intervene and to do something about the bullying that they were receiving. And in most cases, it's been documented that school administrators knew that these individuals were being bullied, but chose to do nothing, chose to look away, chose to ignore it, chose to sweep it under the rug, chose not to talk about it. That's not the way you solve the problem. And until we solve this problem, this issue, this epidemic, is only going to grow in numbers. Numbers of suicides will continue to grow among our youngest public school system students. These people are dying at an early age before they ever get a chance to even find out what life is all about. And it doesn't have to be this way. And I'm hoping that by speaking out on this today, bringing this issue to the attention of you, the public, and in particular, you, the mothers, the fathers, the grandmothers, the grandfathers, and any other relatives will take heed and get involved in your child's life at school. Now, let me be clear. Each and every one of your students, each and every one of your children have a right to go to the school of their choice in their district and be provided with a safe environment to study, to learn, and learn how to be productive citizens. But that's not what's happening in too many of our schools. Too many of our youth are losing their life unnecessarily, and needlessly. What we need, and we need to start now, sooner rather than later, we need to instill in these school administrators, school teachers, school principals, school hearing officers, anybody that is involved with the process at our public schools as it relates to our public students, some policies, procedures, tactics, education, whatever, to bring this to a halt. And if not that, at least reduce it to a minimum. And you're not going to do that by looking the other way, ignoring the problem, telling students to ignore the problem. Would you tell your child, if they were the victims of bullying in a public school in the United States, would you tell your child to ignore it, ignore the bullies? Is that the answer that you have for your child? And if not, that should not be your answer for anybody else's child. That is not the professional nor educated thing to say to these young, innocent school students. Now, let me just give you a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. Last week, in the state of New Jersey, a young 10-year-old girl was found hanging in the school restroom. She was dead. She's taken her life. And the headline on the story went like this: 10-year-old middle school girl begged teachers to intervene and stop the bullying that she was suffering at her school. She begged them, so they had to know. But they didn't care. They didn't care enough to intervene on her behalf, and now she's gone. In the state of Utah, 2 young girls about the same age committed suicide after being bullied. And it's the same. I can give you numbers all over it. But the one thing they all had in common was they all had went to the administrators in the school districts, the teachers in their school districts, and had notified them that they were being bullied on a regular, consistent basis. And they asked for help from the administrators. And they received no help. They received no intervention. So I have to conclude that the administrators, the teachers, the principals, the hearing officers, wherever is in that school district and in that school building that is designated to offer to each and every student a safe, bully-free environment. First of all, these people don't have the passionate feelings for the children that they are supposed to be in charge of during the school hours to provide them a safe environment. And they've never been trained about this bullying. They give lip service to it. That's what's happening in too many of these school districts. They're giving lip service to the problem while looking the other way at the same time. It's time now for that. Our kids are too precious. Our kids deserve more and deserve better. And if we don't demand it, it's not going to get any better. If we don't start talking about it, if we don't start monitoring these schools and school districts, it's going to continue happening, ladies and gentlemen, on a large scale. Now, let me get into something here. According to studies by the Yale University, victims of bullying are between 2 to 9 times more likely to consider suicide than non-victims. Did you hear what I said? The victims of bullying are 2 to 9 times more likely to consider suicide than non-victims. And here's a good part. Schools and other spaces for adolescents need a strong systemic approach to anti-bullying that directly addresses forms of bias. They don't have it. These spaces also need systems equipped to support the mental health of young adults when problems arise. They don't have it. Now you have to ask yourself, why is it that since this is the number one concern of teachers across the country, why is it they don't have any of this? This is not a new phenomenon. This has been going on for a number of years. They've had plenty of time. They've had plenty of money. They've had plenty of opportunities to provide these things that are absolutely necessary. And yet they don't have it. Now, when holding bullies accountable for their actions, covering social justice curricula, and ensuring that adolescents feel empowered to come forth when facing bullying or suicidal tensions, or just a few steps to actively support young people, these young people that face these difficult experiences. But you see, nobody's holding the bullies accountable. Nobody's talking to the parents of the bullies. They don't even know. But what they are doing is they are insulting the victims and re-victimizing them by insisting that they, the victims, transfer to another school. That is not the solution to the problem. That does nothing to decrease the bullying that's taking place in that building, in that school district. We have to get to the bottom of this. We have to do what is necessary. We have to make sure that the bullies have consequences to their actions. The parents of the bullies should be notified immediately when their children are guilty of this bullying. We cannot put the burden on the victims. You're just asking for more trouble. So you take the victim out of the school only to have the bullies, the perpetrators, focus on another victim in that school, another target. That's all they do. You have not removed the problem from the school. You have not done anything to offer punishment nor consequences to the perpetrators of this bullying. And all too often times, ladies and gentlemen, we're looking to see that in too many instances, that it becomes deadly. And yet the teachers refuse to intervene. So what does that say about your school teachers, your school administrators, when they turn a blind eye to your child and they ignore it and then tell the victims to ignore it, okay? All the while, your tax dollars that should ensure that your child is entered into a safe environment, bully-free, and if not bully-free, certainly the perpetrators will be dealt with severely and harshly to prevent another deadly suicide. But that's not happening because nobody wants to talk about it. It is happening all over the country. And the last time I checked, USD 259 was in this country. And it's happening at USD 259. So folks, we've got to take this seriously. We've got to let them know that we take it seriously. We've got to let them know that we will no longer tolerate inaction, no consequences, no punishment, no acknowledgement that school bullying is taking place right before our very eyes. Our precious little ones, 10 And 11 and 12-year-olds are being bullied by other 10, 11, and 12 and 13-year-olds right before our eyes, right before their eyes. Now, a lot of this takes place in the classroom, as I said, and then a lot of it is cyberbullying. Cyberbullying by 10-year-olds in our public schools. This is absolutely unexcusable, unacceptable, and has to change. This is a problem that has to be dealt with. Not later, not yesterday, should have been done yesterday, but not tomorrow. It should starting today. This has to change. Now, let me just say this. Traditional bullying victimization has been found to be a significant risk factor for later depression, which persists even decades after bullying occurs. So you see, the thing that you're telling these people to ignore is something that will be with them in a lot of cases, and in most cases, for the rest of their life. So how the hell can they ignore it? Why should they ignore it? Deal with it. Do something about it. Like I said, if this was your child, is this the behavior that you would want for your child? Ignore it, re-victimize them, and do nothing to the perpetrators? Is that what you would accept? I don't think so. I don't think so. So why in the world, when you're put in charge, look, you chose this profession. You chose to go to work as a school teacher, as a school administrator, as a school principal, whatever. And then by doing so, you have to accept the responsibilities of seeing to it these children that are placed in your care for 6 or 8 hours a day, that you're looking out for their best interest, academically, physically, and emotionally. And most of you that are informed about this bullying are falling down on the job. You're not doing what you are supposed to be doing. You're not holding up your end of the bargain. You're not being responsible like you are supposed to be. And if you're not going to do that, and if you could care less about what happens to them physically, emotionally, and psychologically, you need to find another profession. And parents, I want to tell you, you need to better monitor your children, your children's behavior, and your children's experience at the public school that you're sending them to. They're not babysitters. They can't do it all. I understand teaching profession is difficult. They need some involvement from you, the parent. Your child needs some involvement from you in their school life. Oftentimes, some of this bullying is not reported even to the parents because you have not established the type of relationship with your child that they feel comfortable bringing this information to you when they're bullied. But all the while, thoughts are running through their head about the hand they're being dealt at school. They don't tell you about the thoughts, but you have to look at their actions. their attitudinal changes. You have to look at these things. You have to consider them. You have to be aware. And the only way you can do that is you have to monitor your child. You cannot ignore your child while they're at home, and you cannot think you can push the responsibility off to the teachers while they're at school. This is too important. It is too serious of an issue and too big of an issue for you to think that you have no part to play. No, no, no. This is not a spectator sport. This involves participation. Participation from parents, participation from teachers, participation from principals, and last but not least, participation from school administrators, from superintendents on down. And right now, it's not happening in the proper degree that it should be by anybody. And that's why we're not talking about it. But from today on, that is going to change. But I need the cooperation from the parents to demand that teachers do their part. Stop sweeping this stuff under the rug. Stop ignoring it. Stop telling bullied victims to ignore it. Why the hell should they? So I hope that I have reached the minds, the attitudes, and the motivation for many of you parents, teachers, and administrators to do something about this epidemic problem that is only growing day by day. Because believe me, bullying is going on through the United States public school systems and school districts every single day of the school year. And ignoring it won't make it go away. It will only make it get bigger and larger and create and cause more suicides, more mental health issues and problems in a country that has more than its share of those issues as we speak. Now, I'll be touching on this issue more over the next few weeks and months. But I hope that I'm not the only one that will be addressing this epidemic issue. And in particular, as I've stated, the proportion of African American students and adolescents that are being victimized by these bullies. And I may just tell you, the perpetrators, I don't care what race they are, it makes no difference. If you're perpetrating the bullying of your fellow students, I don't care what color you are. Stop it. Be respectful. Be respectful of what you say. Be respectful of what you do. And by the way, let me say this. We talk about the bullying, and those people that are bullied are 2 to 9 times more likely to think about and consider suicide. And I've talked about the rate of bullying that is being done by African Americans. And let me tell you, that number only goes higher if you are a member of the LGBTQ community, the rate goes up to over 50%. That too is unacceptable, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm calling for, first of all, school teachers across the country should be taking some kind of course, education related to anti-bullying. They should be made aware of the risk factors that are involved with victims of bullying. School policies, school districts should have policies. And every parent of every child enrolled in that school district should know about the school policies regarding bullying. And they should be made aware that there will be consequences for the children or child of any parent that violates those policies. Now, that policy should stipulate it makes no difference. It's what your position in the community is. It makes no difference how much money you make. It makes no difference as what your job title is. You all will be held accountable, and your child will be held accountable if they cannot adhere to the policies and procedures that were outlined when you enrolled your child in the school districts. There can be no excuses. There can be no other way. You want to talk about zero tolerance? There should be zero tolerance for school bullying in school districts across the United States. Anything less than that is unacceptable. And if there's any teacher that cannot see fit to enforce these rules, find another profession. Okay? All right, folks, that's my show for today. Thanks for watching.